Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Today, we have got Sammy Moore here talking to us about the Utah Utes, some of their first game action, but also big football game coming up on Saturday. We're going to discuss all of that today. So make sure you guys stick around all the way to the end because we got a lot to cover. Again, appreciate you guys being in here. Thank you very much. Before we get started, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments, and always hit the notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. First things first, Sammy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. You know, it's right now in Salt Lake, football's fun again. Like it's fun and it's good. It's good to be out of the pits of despair that were last year. So
Gotcha. So let's just talk about first last week. You know, super slow start against Wyoming. Ended up, and I've been talking the last 2 days about the speech from Kyle Whittingham at halftime that he, I'm sure, just went into the locker room and just said, "Hey guys, you know, you're playing hard. Just keep it up, and everything's just going to turn around. You're just playing." I'm sure that's the conversation that he had with those guys at halftime. Just you're giving it the golly old college try, but then things just turned around in the second half. Is it cause for concern, the slow start, or is it just it's Wyoming? We're better than them, and maybe they got caught looking ahead and didn't put their best foot forward?
well, I think the big thing is Utah had 4 opportunities to score in that first half. Dylan Curtis, the true freshman kicker, he hit a 43-yarder. And then he missed 45, 46, or 42 45s, and then a 46-yarder was blocked. So the thing is I wasn't in Laramie. I had something come up, so I wasn't able to make the trip out. But from people that were there, they told me that, like, it was terrible conditions out there. Like, the wind would be dead for 1 second, and then all of a sudden the wind would just come out of nowhere. And it was, like, massive gusts of wind. And that stadium, that wind comes in there and it just swirls. And so, you know, that was a thing. There was moisture on the field. And, you know, Dylan's a very, very, he was well talked about, like, heading into fall, like into spring ball. He joined the program early. He's like a Chris Sailing 5-star, 5+ star, whatever the kicker rating is. He set the Utah high school state record for the longest field goal made in the game. I think it was like 70 yards. So it's like, we know he knows how to kick and stuff. And honestly, I know a lot of people are glad that he got this bad game out of his system now, rather than when Utah is truly going to need it, because Utah was moving the ball so efficiently. They were getting down the field. The thing is about this Utah offense through the first 3 games is they've put up back-to-back games of 500 yards of offense, which has been a long time since that's happened in Utah land. The last few years, it's been like max 450 yards sometimes, but they've been like moving the ball really efficiently. And even if you look back at the stats for the first half, Utah moved the ball really well in the first half, but they weren't able to get the points. And they moved the ball just as efficiently in the second half, but they were able to, like, close out on those drives and stuff. So I think, you know, I wouldn't say it was a slow start as much as they weren't just finishing drives. I think that was the big thing for them. And it kind of turned into a ref show for a little bit there. I try not to blame officiating on anything. I was raised that way. You don't blame the officials, you settle it on the field type thing. But
they played a part, though.
Oh, they did. They did. This was the most penalized game I've seen of Utah in a long time. And there were some penalties out there that were very, very questionable. Smith Snowden got called for a pass interference when he literally, all he did is have his hand on the wide receiver's hip. Like, it was bad. There was a couple of questionable holding calls on the Utah offensive line and stuff. And so it turned into a little bit of a ref show for a little bit there. But, you know, Utah was able to come out with the win. I mean, I didn't have any doubt that Utah was not going to beat Wyoming. I think that, you know, Wyoming was playing it up as much as they possibly could as like a rivalry renewed. Utah's coming back to town, all these things. Whereas Utah was like, okay, well, we're going to go in, do our job and come back home. And that's how they treated it. And I think it also helped that almost every single coach on Utah's staff had either played at Wyoming when they were at either Utah or BYU in some of their cases, or Jim Harding, Utah's offensive line coach, coached at Wyoming for I think like 5 or 6 years. So he knows that stadium very well. There was literally only one coach on Utah staff who had never, at least to my recollection, played or participated in a game at Laramie. So those coaches knew what to expect walking into that stadium and stuff. So, I mean, get the job done, move on to 3-0, and it's on to this week.
Gotcha. So, I know it's early and competition just hasn't been great so far. Having said that, I think Devin Dampier's played pretty good, better than good. He's played very well. I got to believe this is what Utah staff had been expecting when they brought him in this spring to lead this offense.
Oh, 100%. And I know the big things for Devin heading into this game or heading into this season that the Utah staff wanted him to work on was upping his completion percentage, not turning the ball over as much, and also not taking unnecessary hits. And he's done a really good job at all three of those categories. He's already at a 73% completion percentage on the season, which is pretty insane considering Utah hasn't had to throw the ball that much this year. Like they haven't needed to do it. He hasn't turned the ball over yet. He already has 7 touchdowns on the season. Yes, he took some unnecessary hits versus UCLA, but even Jason Beck said this week when I had our media availability, he said, I think Dev was just really excited to get back out there and like really excited to play. And he took some unnecessary hits, but we've seen week to week, Devin has taken less and less hits. He is God bless Cam Rising and Tyler Huntley, Utah's 2 last full-time starters. Those 2 could not slide or get out of bounds to save their lives. They would take the hits. And so Devin doesn't do that. Devin gets down, he takes a slide, he gets out of bounds. He just tries to avoid as many hits. And I think he's very aware of, this schedule is not going to get any easier. And
no,
to be completely blunt with you, I think Wyoming was probably the best team that Utah faced in their non-con because they played UCLA, which started the whole Rolling Stone in Westwood. And then you play Cal Poly, and then you play Wyoming. And I honest to God think Wyoming was probably the best of the 3 non-conferences that Utah had, which if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Wyoming was going to be the toughest challenge, I would have laughed in your face because I thought it was going to be UCLA. But, it is what it is at this point. But so bad. I was one of those sickos that watched the UCLA New Mexico game last Friday. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But then I was like, it's because you're a college football sicko, you idiot. And you were I sat there and just spent my Friday night doing that. But yeah, Devin's been, I know Utah fans are very, very, very happy that Devin's on this team. He's leading the team in rushing right now, but Wayshawn Parker is not far behind. I think Devin has 198 yards on the season. Wayshawn has 192. So, it's fine. I think Devin is living up to expectations. Obviously, this weekend is going to be a big metric on where he actually is in terms of development, growth, and stuff like that. But as of right now, Devin Dampier was graded an A+ by Kyle Whittingham this week. We asked Kyle how he would grade Devin, and he said he gets an A+. He's done everything we've asked him to do. So I think Devin Dampier's the guy.
Got it. So, I'm a guy, Sammy, that believes that even though it's early in the season, you can still make statements. You alluded to this early on when you said, it's good. Football's good in Salt Lake. It's good to be in Salt Lake with football being good again. This weekend, Texas Tech hasn't even been challenged, even remotely. Look, Texas Tech and Utah haven't been challenged. They haven't played great competition. But Tech, it's even worse, in my opinion. They've played no one with even a pulse. But they're good. I mean, let's not discount how good Texas Tech is because they are really good. They're talented, just hasn't been tested. Having said all of that, I think statements can be made even though it's early in the season. Is this a kind of a statement game for Utah to kind of get back the respect that maybe it lost over last year, the first year in the conference and things not going the way that they thought they were or that they would? Is this kind of hey, let's get some of this respect back that we lost and try to take control of this conference a little bit?
I honestly think it very well could. I know a lot of national media, Utah's respect what they were like, oh, Utah's back after UCLA, and like, yeah, that's taken a massive hit in the last 2.5 weeks. But I think that this is a big game, like you alluded to. Tech hasn't been tested. Also, like Tech hasn't left the state yet. They haven't left their home
Haven't left
arena.
home. Yeah.
They haven't left home. So, and Rice Eccles, even though like it's going to be a 10 a.m. local time kickoff, Rice Eccles is still going to be pumped. It's going to be lauded. They announced that all that's left is like a handful of standing room only tickets at this point. So it's going to be sold out. And I think that, I hate leaning on the altitude thing. I hate it. I really do. But honestly, with the amount of transfers that Tech has coming in, I don't know how they're going to react to that. Like, yeah, there's some guys that were here last year when Tech played at BYU, but there's not as many as you would think. And so I hate leaning on that altitude thing. It's like when people are like, well, it's really hot in this state, so how are they going to handle the heat? I hate doing it, but it's something that has been on my mind the last few days, is how are they going to react to it, because there are so many new faces on this team. But neither team has been tested. And I think that this could really be a statement win for Utah, especially this season, especially knowing that, a lot of people counted Utah down and out and said Utah was washed and Utah was a thing of the past after the last 2 years and stuff. And so I think that getting a win this weekend would be massive. There's going to be a lot of high name recruits that are going to be in town for Utah. It's a big weekend. And so if you get a win, I think, that's step one out of 9, because there's 9 conference games. That's step 1 out of 9 to get to your final goal, which is the Big 12 championship game. And I think beating Tech is going to give this team a big boost of confidence.
Gotcha.
Because people are doubting. They're like, oh, well, you guys haven't played anybody yet. But at the same time, if you can go in and handle business versus Tech, I think that that's going to bode so well for this team down the stretch.
Gotcha. So for me, there's two. I mean, there's several different storylines, but there's two that are really big. But the biggest one, the one that I'm the most interested in, is Utah's offensive line, which I've said on many occasions that I think is the best in the country. I don't care what anybody. I think Utah has the best offensive line in the country. I think they have 2 guys that are first-round draft picks. I think one of them, in my opinion, now he may not be the first pick, but he could look, my Pittsburgh Steelers need a tackle. They need a left tackle. I can tell you that right now. We need any tackles. But having said all of that, the Utah's offensive line against Tech's D line, I think that is going to be, Sammy, must-see TV this weekend. Give me some of your thoughts on just the offensive line versus their defensive line.
Yeah, I think that, like, you and I have talked a lot about Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu and how good they are. But, Tanoa Togiai, one of Utah's guards, he's been playing at an insanely high level too as well the last few games. And, I like to go back to those PFF grades and look at them and see how things are coming out. Like, Utah had a season high PFF pass blocking grade of 92.5 last week versus Wyoming. And that was with a Wyoming team that likes to stack the box. They are a run first defense. And so I think that that's good. Like, this offensive line has been through some big games before. And like, yeah, I know that there's a lot of hype about Texas Tech's defensive line too. But again, like we said earlier, who have they played? And are they going to be able to be productive in this game? But I think it all starts up with those 5. Jaron Kump is your center. He's been playing. He missed the Cal Poly game with a little bit of an injury, but he was back for Wyoming. And he didn't need to play versus Cal Poly. Like, honestly, like, none of Utah's starters truly needed to play versus Cal Poly, but they put him out there to get them more reps and stuff. But they've played really good. Like I said, there were a few ticky-tacky penalties last week, but they've been stout in pass pro. Devin Dampier's only been sacked twice. One of them was, a stunt that came from the nickel and no one picked him up. And the other one was, Devin was rolling out of the pocket and he kind of like spun into it. So, 2 sacks through 3 games is not bad, considering that Devin was sacked 5 times last year at New Mexico and he had no offensive line whatsoever. But I think that, these guys are good, and the thing is about this Utah offense is like you finally started to see a little bit more from the passing game the last week and a half. And so we all know that if you run the ball, it's going to open the passing game. And if you pass the ball, it's going to open up the run game. And I think that, these guys are really good in both situations. And Spencer Fano's even said, he's like, yeah, protecting Devin is fun and I love it, but I love to hit somebody in run protection. And that you can truly see that with these guys when they get out into run blocking. They are just mauling people left, right, and center. Like, it's insane. I will say their PFF grade last week was lower. It was like a 61.9 in run blocking. But again, like I said, Wyoming knew running. They're run first defense. They were going to stack the box. A lot of things were going on, but these guys, it's going to be a big test for them. But I honestly think that they're up for the task, and
yeah,
they play better at home, honestly. And I think that's something else. That's something else that's going to benefit this team is you're going to have the entire 51,000 fans that are going to be in there backing you. And so I think, well, not all of them. I know there's going to be some Tech fans, but it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I've loved this offensive line. I think they're great. Off the field, all five of those guys are also just insanely great people too. So it's fun to root for people that are also fun people to talk to off the field as well.
Absolutely. Be careful with the only thing I'll say, be careful with the PFF grades. Let your eyes use it as a tool. Let your eyes tell you more, because look, the line, whoever PFF, what they're grading isn't necessarily always the right thing. Offensive lineman, as an old offensive lineman, I used to hate, and now they didn't have PFF when I played, but they had things out there, and I used to hate. I'm like, hold on, you're counting that as a negative? I'm like, what are you talking about? My guy didn't make the play. My head was on play side. What else are you asking of me other than me blocking the guy? But
there's been some things this season, even with like coverage grades and stuff. Like, I looked at it and I was like, he wasn't even Jonathan Hall had an insane interception versus Cal Poly. He just tracked the quarterback's hand and just tipped it to himself and came up with the pass, and they credited that as a coverage. And I was like, that wasn't coverage. I was like, that was just really smart heads up play by Jono. So
it's cool as a tool, but I just let my eyes use it more. But before I get you out of here, Sammy, because I know you're busy, you did mention the 10 o'clock kick, which I think, it is what it is. I don't know. I think it's a miscarriage of justice, to be honest with you. This game is, if it's supposed to be as big a game as what we're all thinking that it is, I don't care that it's on Fox. It doesn't need to be at 10 o'clock in the morning, local time of the day of the game. I don't care, but it is what it is. You can't change it now. Having said that, you mentioned it. I think Rice Eccles is still going to be insane. I think it's going to be even more insane because it's 10 o'clock in the morning, because Utah hasn't been up to standards the last couple of seasons, especially last year. Biggest game, people are saying, well, who's Utah? My power rankings, people are beating me up because I put Utah at 1, and they're like, what have they done? Who have they played? I think this place is going to be insane on Saturday for a multitude of reasons. But I think it's going to be even more crazy because it is. Somebody said, well, there's no tailgating. And I'm like, there's going to be some tailgate. If you could tailgate, if the game was at 5 o'clock in the morning, people are going to find a way to tailgate. So I don't think that's going to have anything to do with it. I think that place is going to be insane.
And the thing is, the tailgating stereotype mainly comes from BYU. BYU has very strict tailgating laws.
Gotcha.
If you ever are in Salt Lake and you come to a Utah game, if you go up to the Guardsman tailgate lot, which is right across the street from the football facility, you will find there are so many Utah fans that are willing to feed other fans, give them alcohol. There is so much tailgating up there that it's not even funny. The only thing that Utah doesn't have is they don't serve alcohol in the stadium. That's it. That's all that it is. But I know people were pissed off because, youth sports are a big thing here in Utah. And so kids have soccer, football, whatever sport they played. As a former youth sports star, I totally understand that. But at the same time, I know people wanted this to be a night game, because I will say Rice Eccles at nighttime is something very magical. It's such a fun place to play. It's such a fun experience to be in. Utah does a lot of like pyro and stuff, and the pyro doesn't hit at 10 in the morning. It hits when that sun is down, and it gets loud and it gets rowdy in there. But I mean, Utah fans are hyped for this game. They're so excited. Utah fans are buying into this team right now, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, there's like so many other aspects of this game that we didn't even touch on that I am looking forward to the most when it comes to Saturday, but Rice Eccles is going to be fine. I think Utah fans are excited to have Big Noon in town. We've had game day in town quite a few times over our history. I can't remember the last time Big Noon came in. Obviously, Urban Meyer's on the panel, and he coached at Utah. He coached Utah to their Fiesta Bowl win. This is the first time Urban's going to be back since leaving, which is insane to think about. They're going to honor him at halftime because he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. So it's like, it's going to be so fun. And I know that there's fans that are excited for it. Everyone's looking forward to this game. And I hope it's going to be a good game. I really hope that. I hope that whoever wins, I mean, personally, I hope Utah wins just because I think that this team has what it takes to win. But I think that whoever wins, I want it to be a true win. And I mean that I don't want refs getting in the way. I don't want it to be, if this person didn't get hurt, I want it to be a true win for whichever program it is.
Right. I think, for Big 12 perspective, it needs to be a really good football game. Yeah. I talked to Jared Johnson, who covers Texas Tech, yesterday. I said the game needs to be a really good game. I want it to be a close game. And just like you said, it needs to be – I don't want it coming down to a bad call. I'm okay with it coming down to a call if the call is obvious and it needs to be made. I'm okay with that because, penalties are part of football as long as they're not in the way of the game. Yep. So if a call needs to be made, okay, fine. It's guy causes a pass interference. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
And I know that's a tough conversation, especially after the BYU game.
Well, I was just about to say, like, if a penalty needs to be called, I want it to be called consistently for both teams. I don't want it to be pass interference is called every single time on the Utah secondary, but it's not called at all on Texas Tech. I don't want holding to be called on the Utah offensive line every single time, but it not be called on Tech, or vice versa.
Correct.
Tech's getting called with every holding call, and Utah's not getting called for holding at all. I think that I want it to be fair across the board. Right. I think that's what everyone feels about every single game, but like this one specifically, with how much is riding on it for, the conference, for both teams, I think that it's important. And I think that, if both teams can get things done, I wouldn't be shocked, if there was some sort of, I still think Iowa State is a team to be like reckoned with to a certain extent, and Utah misses Iowa State this year. Mm-hmm. But I do think if things fall a certain way, there's a chance that Utah and Tech could end up back in Arlington together. Correct. And so I think that, it's going to be interesting to see. It's also, another thing, it's Ute Proud game. It's the annual game where the Ute Tribe Indian game. So they have like the tribe come in and perform at halftime. The team wears special Ute Indian tribal prints on their helmets and stuff. Ute Proud game is one of fans' favorites games. Like, they love the Ute Proud game. So that's another thing that they have going for them is, this team represents this entire tribe. And so they want to always, go out on a good note to show them that, this is what we represent and stuff. So, but it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I think just one thing I do want to bring up is John Henry Daly really fast. Uh-huh. And how insanely good he's been through 3 games. He came into the season after he transferred from BYU. And last year he didn't play a lot. He was a little bit banged up. But this year, John Henry is currently leading the nation in sacks. He has 5. Through 3 games, he has a forced fumble already. And he is just proving to be a force to be reckoned with on that edge. And I'm very excited to see how he performs on Saturday.
Absolutely. Well, Sammy, again, thank you very much for your time. Like I said, I know you're super swamped with the game being super early. Again, I don't think that's going to be a problem for Utah fans.
I'm fine with it. I can get home. I can, watch some more football.
That's right.
I can go out and play a round of golf on Sunday because I'm not like staying up until 2 a.m. working and stuff. So I'm fine with it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much again for your time. I'm sure I'll be talking to you again here pretty soon. It's going to be a great game on Saturday. Again, everybody, thank you guys. Sammy, just in case everybody doesn't already know, tell them where they can find all the good stuff that you do.
So you can find us over on utezone.com. We call ourselves the greatest internet community for Utah fans. Come join us. Lots of VIP content. We have our own VIP podcast. It's called In the Zone, where me and our publisher Dan Sorensen break down everything going on the Hill. Lots of good stuff. We have basketball content starting to ramp up. I'm on football and stuff. You can also find me on Twitter at @S_Mora247, and you can follow the Ute Zone account at Ute Zone.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Sammy, and thank everybody else for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.